Harp rakes or harp raking? What is this new technique? Well, this is actually something that I've been working on now for about the past 10 years. That little piece at the beginning that you heard there, the excerpt, is actually from a track of mine called Nioh, which is on my debut release, Escapades. I'll leave that down below in the description if you want to check that out straight after this video. But essentially, it's something that I've tried to incorporate into my playing to allow me to play stranger chord voicings that usually you wouldn't be able to using traditional methods. Now, the inspiration for this actually came about 10 years ago. Back in Liverpool, when I was about 16, I was underage. I used to sneak into the bars to go and watch a guy called Mikey Blackburn play. Now, he was playing with a covers band. It was essentially like pop, R&B, funk and soul covers. Well, what fascinated me about Mikey's playing was the way in which he'd bring the right hand over when he was playing these chords, and it sounded to me like, like a keyboard player, piano player, or a harp player, if you like, just a totally different sound to the instrument. Now, I used to come home from those gigs, and I would get home and be like, what is going on? I'd try and figure it out desperately. So I apologize, Mikey, if this is not what you were doing back then. This is just my interpretation of it. And it's something that I've kind of adapted into my way of playing. So today, what I want to show you guys is the mechanics that you will need to use this technique, but also some musical examples that you can apply to your own playing as well. First of all, you may be thinking, is this just another gimmick? Is this another YouTube clickbait title? Well, no. This technique allows us to play guitar chords that would otherwise be impossible using standard technique. It really does open up a whole different realm of chord voicings. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the mechanics and maybe why you would want to use this technique. Okay, so typically when we play chords on the guitar, we are limited in the sense that the maximum amount of notes that we can play are obviously 6. But in reality, most of the nicer voicings that we play tend to be 4 notes, 3 notes, or 5 notes. That's usually our job as a guitar player, as to not get in the way of other band members. So if we are using just these 4 fingers, we're kind of stuck as well. We're limited to the shapes that we can play. It's the nature of the tuning. So for example, if I was to take this A minor triad up here, so all we're going to play is this. I cannot play that A root. Now, I know some will be saying, oh, you can use the open A string if you want. Yes, fair dues, but we cannot play this 12th fret A root. We just don't have the fingers for it. There's no way of fingering that, shall we say. So what can we do? This is where the harp raking comes in. So what I will do is take my first finger on the right hand, the pointer finger, I guess, and push down on the 12th fret. Now, I am not tapping this. This is one big thing to point out. It's not like Stanley Jordan or, some of the modern players that you see doing it. That's more of a percussive hit if you were to go kind of sound. That's not what we're after. We are after this kind of cascading sound. So to achieve that, hold down the 12th fret with the first finger on the right hand. And then what we'll do is use the pinky to pluck downwards towards us like this. And voila, there we go. That is now a playable chord voicing. Now, you can actually control the speed of this if you want. So you could go slowly. Or you could take that quickly, so like this. Now, I think it's really important to note then we could do that with other chords. So why don't we take, for example, an A major 7? So I'm just going to play this drop 2 voicing. It's in first inversion. What I will do is exactly the same thing again. I'm going to play that A root so we get this. That's another chord that otherwise would be impossible to play on guitar. Now, you are not just limited to that. You could actually change what this lowest note is and we could get some really cool sounding voicing. So maybe I just want to play the 9th of that chord or the major 2nd as the lowest note. The note B, I can just shift that up to the 14th fret and we get this. That is actually the voicing you hear right at the beginning of this video in my track Nioh. I love that sound. It's just, you would never ever be able to play that without using a technique like this. Why don't we apply this to, say, a minor 7 chord? I'll use again a drop 2 voicing, and we can play a minor 7 like this. Now, some may say, oh, you can bar across to get that shape. Yeah, but it's kind of awkward. This is just an easier way of doing it. You would not be able to play this, though, using a bar. So this shape. I love that kind of, minor second clash between these two notes there. I think lots of voicings on guitar actually sound really cool when you've got this, half step interval between certain notes like this. By itself sounds horrible in the context of the chord. It sounds lovely. It sounds more piano-like or more harp-like to my ears, at least. Now, I know at the minute we've kind of looked at these just separately. Why don't we take a look at how you could use it in a progression, for example? So far with all of these chords that we've been looking at, usually the right hand note has actually been the lowest in pitch. It's also been the last note that we hear. But what we can do with this technique actually is to confuse the ear. We can actually place this note within that chord. What do I mean by that? So, for example, we could take this voice in here and play the note D and listen to it now. So this note technically would be here. So it's confusing the ear. It's actually higher in pitch than the lowest note of the left hand, if you like. So it sounds way more like piano-like, if you like, to my ears. So let's just hear that again. Maybe let's try it with a different voice, and then so we could try, let's again look at this drop 2 voice, and this is just G major 7. What I am going to do is hold that D note again, so that will technically be the 5th of the chord, and it'll be the 2nd lowest note in pitch again, so we get this. We can actually convert this chord into like an E minor 9 or an E minor 7 shape by just putting that low E in there. It's the open string, and we're going to pluck it again with the little finger so we get this. Now that is a beautiful big sounding E minor 9 chord. So what we can do actually then is apply that same concept to another chord if we're in the key of E. Why don't we play like an E major type sound? This will be like an E major 13, I guess. I'm going to play with a sharp 11. I'm going to play this 13th fret on the A string, and we'll get this. Such a lovely sounding chord. Now, one thing which we haven't talked about up until this point is the fact that you can actually do other things with this first finger. It doesn't have to stay static. You could experiment with sliding with it. So using a similar type of voicing, let's see what I mean by that. We're going to slide this first finger down. So I'll hit down the voicing. And then at this point, I'll just slide that first finger back 2 frets. So we get this. Or you could basically hit that A string first, then the low E string, and then slide afterwards. So you get this. Just a lovely effect. But we could also go upwards, I guess, with this. Let's try another voicing. So we could go... What about continuously upwards? Or what about continuously downwards? What about both ways? We could go like this, for example. This is starting to sound like a bit of a wannabe John Gom to me. Think of the tune Passion Flower. What an amazing tune, by the way. But it's kind of got that vibe to it, to my ears anyway. So yeah, I would experiment with sliding this first finger as well. Now, a few things to note up to this point is that you can experiment with other fingers holding down or doing the strumming backwards towards you if you would like. So some, you may find it more comfortable to use, I don't know, the middle finger. Some may find it more comfortable to hold with the first finger but pluck with the third. Okay, so everything so far has actually been kind of static. You know, it's just been one chord and then I've stopped and then another chord. So why don't we try something that's more traditional, like a bit more of a groove, and see how we can incorporate this into our playing that way then. Okay, so some of you may still be thinking, okay, that's all fine. It's all just for kind of like the solo guitar, you know, ambient guitar kind of stuff. Well, no, actually, I first started using this in a band situation. So what I'm going to do now is demonstrate for you how that could sound in a typical setup. I'm going to use a chord structure that some of you may recognize. Bonus points if you can tell me down in the comments below. Okay, let's give that a try then. So hopefully that sounded cool. Like I say, bonus points if you can tell me what that chord progression was down below in the comments. It's worth pointing out at this point that if you do want the tabs for these, they are all available over at my website, and it includes that backing track that I've made there, the little loop. There's tons of exercises and things like that. So if you do want them, please do head over there. Most of you may be thinking at the minute, hang on a minute, all of these chords, you're just pulling the pinky backwards. Can we not go the other way? Well, you can, it's just much harder. So if we were to take, for example, that A major 7 voicing again, you can flick kind of like how a flamenco player would, but this time with the little finger downwards. But listen to how difficult this can be. I'm sure some of you out there will be able to do this, no problem, but we get this. So it's got a little bit of a weird tone as well because I'm hitting the frets there. Maybe I just need more time to experiment with it. But again, let's just hear that maybe a bit quicker. Kind of works. Maybe another one. You see, it's just a little bit different. Again, experiment with using maybe the third finger. Maybe that can help you. Doesn't really work for me though. I need to practice that. Another way to get around this problem, really, if you want to sound even more like a keys player, or like synth swells and things like this, then you could use a volume pedal. So I'm going to demonstrate exactly that now for you. I'll use the Boss GT1000 and I'll just swell it in. Hopefully you can hear how it sort of sounds like a synth, actually. You can get these huge sounding chords. Phil Dyer, good friend of mine, actually pointed out that when he'd watched us do this, he said, I think it was Mikey originally ages ago had used a volume pedal doing this similar kind of thing, and it sounded, yeah, just like huge. So hopefully it sounds okay when we try this. Now, I'm sure there are tons of ways that you guys out there will be able to develop this in ways which I could never think of. If you want all of the transcriptions for this, they are all available as part of a new package which I've put together especially for this over on my website. I will leave links down in the description. It also includes the backing track for that little jam you heard and a ton of other exercises and voicings that you can use in your own playing using this harp rake or harp raking technique. So guys, what do you think of it? Do you think the name is apt? Should we change the name? I don't know. Do you think it's a cool sound? That's what I'm really interested in. I would love to know what you guys think, so please do let me know down below in the comments. Subscribe, click that little bell for notifications. I make free lesson content every Friday actually, but I also post my own music. I also post, me improvising. There's tons of stuff, something for everyone, gear demos, reviews, these kind of things. Until next time guys, my name is Jack Gardiner. Cheers.